When we think of the world's most powerful countries, the United States consistently ranks at the top. It's a nation with the strongest economy, high living standards, and one of the most powerful militaries on the planet. In rankings of GDP, quality of life, and innovation, America is steadily in the top 3. In many U.S. states, life is truly thriving. For example, California, Florida, and Texas are known for their high standard of living, strong economies, and abundant opportunities for work and business. Wages are higher than in most countries, and the infrastructure and social services are top-notch. But unfortunately, this bright picture is not universal across America. There are states that resemble poorer countries, where crime, poverty, and chronic stagnation are prevalent. One such state is Mississippi, and its situation is far from new. But what led this state to such a condition? Why does it remain one of the poorest in the nation? To understand why Mississippi is in its current state today, we need to go back 2 centuries. In the 19th century, the United States was developing rapidly, but the paths of development were very different across the country. In the North, in states like New York, Pennsylvania, and Massachusetts, industry was booming, factories were being built, railroads were laid, and cities were growing. The Industrial Revolution allowed the northern states to become economic hubs, capable of trading and manufacturing on a global scale. In the South, including Mississippi, the economy was built on entirely different foundations. The southern states were predominantly agricultural regions, and their wealth depended on growing cotton and other crops. Slavery played a crucial role in this. Labor was cheap, and the economy was sustained by the work of enslaved people. But everything changed with the start of the Civil War in 1861. The conflict between the North and South not only reshaped the political landscape of the country, but also devastated the economy of the southern states. The abolition of slavery dismantled the foundation of their agricultural system. Mississippi and other southern states found themselves in an economic trap from which they could not escape even after the war ended. These historical roots help explain why Mississippi still suffers from chronic poverty and economic stagnation. But this is only part of the story. Let's explore what has led the state to this situation. Even though more than 100 years have passed since the end of the Civil War, Mississippi's economy continues to struggle. It's one of the few states where dependence on agriculture and low-tech industries remains a major issue. Unlike other states that have managed to diversify their economies and develop industries, tech sectors, and tourism, Mississippi still relies on traditional agricultural sectors and lacks significant industrial production. Cotton, soybeans, corn, and timber are the main goods that shape the state's economy. This economic stagnation greatly affects the standard of living. Mississippi has the lowest per capita income among all states, and its poverty rate remains one of the highest in the country. In 2023, around 19% of the state's population was living below the poverty line, which is significantly higher than the national average of 11%. Another major issue is education. Low funding for schools and problems with access to quality education impact job opportunities and the development of new industries. Many young people leave the state to pursue education and find work elsewhere. All these problems create a vicious cycle. The economy doesn't grow due to a lack of skilled professionals, and the youth leave the state in search of a better life. Every year, the situation only gets worse. When it comes to finances and budgeting, Mississippi faces serious challenges. Despite receiving significant subsidies from the federal government, these funds are not always used effectively. Often, financial resources are directed towards maintaining existing systems that do little to spur economic growth. Problems are exacerbated by corruption and misuse of funds, where money ends up in the pockets of local officials and administrators. Federal subsidies are intended to improve infrastructure, education, and social support. However, due to a lack of transparency and insufficient oversight, these funds do not address the core issues, but merely maintain the existing status quo. In recent years, Mississippi has been involved in several major corruption scandals. One of the most notorious cases involved the embezzlement of over $70 million intended for social welfare programs. Funds that were meant to support low-income families were instead used to build expensive sports facilities and pay high salaries to consultants. Among those implicated were local officials, as well as celebrities and influential figures in the state. In addition to economic and financial issues, Mississippi faces serious social challenges that directly impact the quality of life. One of the biggest issues is access to health care. Despite federal assistance programs, the state remains at the bottom of the nation in health metrics. Mississippi ranks among the lowest in the country for healthcare accessibility and life expectancy. High rates of chronic illnesses like diabetes and cardiovascular disease make the situation even worse, while access to quality care is limited due to a shortage of doctors and funding. Health issues are compounded by low income levels and poor living conditions. In rural areas, access to doctors is often limited, and people must travel long distances to receive care. This leads to a mortality rate in the state that is higher than the national average. These social issues also contribute to a mass exodus from the state. Every year, thousands of people, mostly young and able-bodied, leave Mississippi in search of better living and working conditions in other states, further weakening the region's economy. Over the years, the government has made numerous attempts to address Mississippi's problems. Various programs have been launched to improve infrastructure, support businesses, and enhance social services. Projects have been implemented to build roads, improve internet access in rural areas, and support local businesses. However, many of these initiatives have faced the same issues as before: inefficiency, corruption, and insufficient funding. Many government programs that seemed promising did not yield the desired results. For example, a project to create a tech park that was supposed to attract major companies ultimately remained on paper due to a lack of investment and management challenges. Nevertheless, there are positive examples. In some towns, small projects have been successfully launched, helping to create new jobs and revitalize the local economy. But these successes are not enough to change the overall picture in the state. What does the future hold for Mississippi? Experts agree that the state needs comprehensive reforms to overcome the crisis, including infrastructure development, improvements in education, and the attraction of new industries. First, investment in infrastructure. It will create new jobs and make the state more attractive to large companies. Education also plays a key role. If young people have access to quality schooling, it will open up new opportunities and reduce the brain drain to other states. Another important task is to attract investment and develop new sectors. Mississippi has the potential to become a hub for green technology, agricultural innovations, or even tourism if favorable conditions for businesses are created. But does the state have the political will and resources to implement such reforms? Or will Mississippi remain trapped in poverty and stagnation? The question remains open, but one thing is clear: changing the situation will require decisive and large-scale actions.